140,000 passengers found their Christmas holiday plans thrown into chaos when a drone was sighted hovering above Gatwick Airport. More than 1,000 flights were cancelled over 3 days as the drones kept coming back in what officials suspected to be a deliberate and coordinated effort to cause as much disruption as possible. But despite the continued sightings and 2 arrests, doubt remains as to whether the rogue drones ever existed. This is the story of the Gatwick Airport Drone Incident. Opened in 1933, London's Gatwick Airport is the UK's second busiest airport and the 10th busiest in Europe. Situated roughly 30 miles south of central London, Gatwick at its peak handles around 280,000 flights and 140 million passengers per year. Shortly after 9 PM on Wednesday the 19th of December 2018, an airport security officer who had recently finished a shift saw something strange flying above the airport. He immediately called Gatwick Control Centre and reported what he had seen. It was 2 drones. One hovered above the airport complex and the other flew along the boundary fence. Within minutes, the airport's only runway had been closed and all flights in and out were cancelled. Being the Christmas period, the airport was particularly busy and thousands of holidaymakers suddenly found their plans thrown into chaos. Police patrolled the airport with their lights flashing in the hope to scare off whoever was flying the drones, but officers would report at least 5 more sightings before midnight and the runway remained closed. By the following morning, Sussex police had launched their own drones into the vicinity of the airport in the hope to spot any unlawful activity. By 9:30 AM, airport officials prepared to reopen the runway to relieve built-up congestion from the night before. However, in the minutes leading up to the reopening, more public sightings of the drones were reported, and once again, for the second day in a row, Gatwick Airport remained closed. Hoping to get a lucky snap of the rogue drones causing so much disruption, news reporters and photographers joined the already thousands of stranded passengers at the airport. Sussex Police enlisted the help of 5 other police departments, and the Royal Air Force was deployed to assist with anti-drone technology. Gatwick CEO Stuart Wingate speculated that it could be an environmental protest or even sabotaged by a disgruntled airport employee. By lunchtime on the second day of the crisis, after a brief period of no sightings, airport officials managed to get some flights away before more public reports of drone sightings once again seen the runway closed. However, despite the presence of police, Air Force, and hundreds of news media personnel, so far not one photograph of the rogue drone had been snapped from the now hundreds of reported sightings. This was about to change, however. At around 5 PM, photographer Eddie Mitchell was parked at the end of the runway when something caught his eye in the distance. It was a drone and it flashed its green and red lights ahead and in perfect range for a great shot. He got out his camera, steadied his hand, then took several money shots of the rogue drone that had caused so much chaos and disruption. But when he loaded up the images on his computer, ready to send to his editors, he realized he'd made a huge mistake. The image didn't show a drone, but a helicopter hovering roughly 10 miles in the distance. His eyes had clearly played tricks on him. Mitchell, also a drone enthusiast, thought to himself that if he could fly a drone 2 or 3 times a week and make that mistake, what about the general public? He then quickly called police to retract his sighting. Meanwhile, continued public reports of drone sightings ensured Britain's second busiest airport at its busiest time of the year remained closed for the rest of the second day of the ordeal. By 10 PM that evening, the military had installed anti-drone detection devices. However, throughout the entire ordeal, it would detect nothing. By the morning of the 21st, Gatwick Airport reopened and largely continued to operate as normal in an effort to clear the backlog of flights. One last drone sighting briefly closed the runway for about an hour around 5 PM, but flights were able to resume shortly after that. Although the incident itself was now over and the airport operation returned to normal, the absurdity of the whole incident was only just coming to light. Despite hundreds of reporters and photographers lining the edges of the airport and the deployment of military equipment, drones and choppers, not a single shred of evidence was produced to validate a single sighting. For police, however, the whole situation was beginning to be an embarrassment. But instead of backing down, they arrested a couple on suspicion of disrupting civil aviation despite not having a single speck of evidence beyond the couple owning drones and living close to the airport. A local politician leaked the identity of the couple, and the Daily Mail ran a headline the following day that read, "Are these the morons that ruined Christmas?" alongside their image. They were, however, not the morons who ruined Christmas. The couple was held for almost 3 days before being released without charge. They would later receive more than £200,000 in compensation for their ordeal. On the 23rd of December, Jason Tingley, Detective Chief Superintendent of Sussex Police, publicly stated what many were beginning to think when he said, "We are working with human beings saying they have seen something, and there was always a possibility that there may not have been any genuine drone activity in the first place." Many speculated that the initial sightings may have been legitimate, but subsequent sightings could have been the police surveillance drones that were working around the airport. The fact remains that of the hundreds of reported sightings, not one was accompanied by a single photograph. The police investigation into the incident went on for a further 18 months before any lack of new evidence led to its closure. The incident cancelled more than 1,000 flights, disrupted the holiday plans of 140,000 passengers, and cost airlines up to £50 million. While police still publicly maintain there was a drone, privately many of them have their doubts, with one officer being quoted as saying, "We work on evidence and I haven't seen any. That's really all there is to say."